Oh, you because you treated fun. That's what I say. You fine as hell, and I want to get to know you. Why you can't get to know me? Oh, you because you treated fun. That's what.
Check the just kind of on the.
Now I agree. Now let's talk about something else, which is the economy, my friends. I believe that when we re-elect Donald J. Trump, the next president, we are going to unleash a golden age of prosperity in Nevada and all over the United States of America. And it's worth in some ways comparing and contrasting the economic record of Kamala Harris with the economic record of Donald Trump. And also comparing the plans that they have for how we're going to move forward as a country. Kamala Harris is saying that I've never seen this in my life, a politician who is going around the United States of America bragging that she's going to raise taxes, bragging that she wants to let the Trump tax cuts expire, saying to all of you, hey, elect me and you're going to pay a lot more in taxes. I don't know who does that. It doesn't make it, I mean, even normally even the politicians who plan to raise your taxes at least lie to you and tell you they're going to cut them, but not Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is going around telling you she wants to raise your taxes. And here's what President Trump is going to do. We're going to cut taxes for American families, and we're going to penalize companies that are shipping our jobs overseas. That's what we ought to be doing. Here's another difference. Kamala Harris wants to buy oil and gas from tin pot dictators all over the world, some of the worst and most vile people in the entire world. She'd rather buy oil and gas from them. Donald Trump and I want to buy oil and gas from American workers in American territories, and that's why we say, drill, baby, drill. Kamala Harris wants to give Medicare and Social Security to illegal aliens, which, by the way, would bankrupt those programs and throw a generation of our senior citizens into poverty. Donald Trump wants to protect Social Security and Medicare, and it starts with sending illegal aliens back home and not give them free benefits. And if Kamala Harris is rolling out the red carpet for the illegal immigrants in the United States of America, Donald Trump has a different message. Pack your bags, because in 4 months you're going back home. Now, here's the problem with what Kamala Harris has done to this economy. You look at what's going on right now, and it's funny. If you pay attention to her messaging and what she says in these interviews, she can't quite figure out whether she wants to promise to change the policies or if she wants to say that the inflation crisis is over. And sometimes she'll say that. She'll brag about how inflation is much better thanks to her policies. Is inflation better out there for families in Nevada? You know, credit card delinquencies in our country have gone way up. About 10% of credit card balances in the United States of America are delinquent right now. You have about 8% of car loans are delinquent right now. You have Vice President Harris bragging about how good the economy is, and then you have American citizens who can't afford to pay their bills. I'd like to have maybe not just a president like Donald Trump who is smart about what's going on in the country, not just a person who knows that the American people are suffering, but a person who can look at what's going on in the United States of America and say, we can do so much. So let me say just a couple more things here. We'll take a few questions from the reporters, and then we're going to go to Reno from here. So this is a good Nevada day. and we're excited to be here. But here's the thing that we got to remember is that a lot of our fellow citizens right now, and we're having fun at this event, and we're having fun on the Trump campaign, but a lot of our fellow citizens are hurting right now. And I want to talk to you just about a couple of people that I've met on the campaign trail just in the last few weeks, people whose stories really drove home how much Kamala Harris' policies are failing the United States of America. I met a woman. She's a retiree, and her husband is soon to be a retiree. Both of them are sort of at the end of their working lives. They're raising their grandchildren. And told me that for 40 years, she and her husband, in good times and bad, they had this thing that they did, and it was their special thing. They would do steak night on Friday. Every Friday, in tight times, in prosperous times, they would do steak night. And I'm not talking about going to a fancy steakhouse. We're in Las Vegas. I'm not talking about going to STK. I'm talking about going to the grocery store and buying a nice steak and having that be their thing that they did together. We all know it's these little rituals, right? These are the things that make life worth living. We've all got them in our families, and it's why we work hard. It's why this is the greatest country in the world. But last year, she stopped doing steak night. They stopped doing steak night because the price of groceries has gotten so unaffordable, and of course, times were especially tight because they've got a couple of extra mouths to feed that they didn't plan on. And my friends, we got to do better. In this country, we got to make sure that if you work hard and play by the rules, you spend your entire life working your finger to the bone, you ought to be able to afford a steak night on Friday night, and that's what we're fighting for. I mean, so many young Americans, and if you look at the statistics, but also if you just talk to young families, the biggest barrier to people are young people starting families, having babies, is that they're worried about the cost of housing. So the more that housing gets more expensive, the more that young Americans are going to decide to either wait or to not have a family altogether. And what a horrible indictment of the policies of Kamala Harris that our young people are choosing not to have families because they're worried about affording a baby under Kamala Harris's economy. And with my message to those families is we're going to do better. Donald Trump is going to do better. Kamala Harris broke this country's economy, and Donald Trump will fix it. And so I want us, because I know a lot of you are volunteering. A lot of you are knocking on doors. A lot of you are doing the things that we need to do to get out the vote. And we'll talk a little bit more about that after I take some questions. But I want you to remember what we're doing it for. Because as fun as it will be to beat Kamala Harris and the Democrats, and trust me, I will enjoy it more than any person in this room. When we beat Kamala Harris and the Democrats on November the 5th, remember what we're doing it for. We're doing it to give the American people a government that actually looks after their interests. We're doing it to create enough prosperity so that that woman and her husband can afford a steak night on a Friday night. We're doing it so that our young people can afford to buy homes and start families. We are on a crusade to give the American people the leadership that it deserves. And on November the 5th, we're going to do exactly that. Thank you. God bless you guys. Appreciate everything. Now, we'll take a few questions from reporters, and then unfortunately, we're going to have to hit the road and go to Reno. But let's start. It's too bright for me to see us, so hopefully somebody back there has a microphone.
Senator, thank you very much for coming to Las Vegas. If you could elaborate a little bit more on a proposal that is very popular with a lot of people here, and just how exactly you would make the no tax on tips policy work in terms of a greater budget.
Yes, sir. Yeah, look, it's a fair question. Obviously, the government's spending way more money than it takes in right now. And I think that there are so many areas where we can cut wasteful spending, frankly, stop paying hundreds of billions of dollars in fraudulent Medicare and Social Security claims to illegal aliens, and we can save a lot of money, and we can give back to the American people. But here's what's so important about President Trump's no tax on tips policy. And notice, he comes out with a no tax on tips policy. It was his idea. I was actually there when he came up with the idea and then called a couple of economists and said, all right, give me a sense of how this would work. So he literally just came, all right, give me a sense of how this would work. So he literally just came up with it. And then, of course, we looked into the policy details of how to make it work. And then he issued this proposal, and 4 days later, Kamala Harris came out with it. And if you notice, we're talking a lot about border security. Like 4 days after she became the nominee, she started talking. All of a sudden, Kamala Harris got religion about border security. And I sometimes think that Kamala Harris, the last couple of weeks, she's going to wear a long red tie and a red MAGA hat. And that's going to be her strategy, is just copy everything Donald Trump does. But sir, to answer your question, people, why not just give them their money back, fire the IRS agents, and we'll all be more prosperous, and Americans will have more money in their pockets. So I think a big part of the no taxes on tips policy is not just giving people more of their hard-earned money that they can actually spend on their families and spend on their dreams. It's about stopping this ridiculous tax bureaucracy that harasses middle-class American citizens. Think about this. You've got multi-billion-dollar corporations that ship jobs overseas and use slave laborers, and meanwhile, Kamala Harris's IRS is focused on a middle-class casino worker in Nevada. It's a disgrace. No taxes on tips is going to stop it, and that's why we believe in that policy. Next question.
Senator Vance, with respect to the housing proposal, when the Democrats talk about this issue, one of the things that they highlight is this alleged idea of giant corporations and big investors buying up houses and thus driving up the price of those houses. I wonder if you can comment on that with respect to your program and whether or not that would be a factor.
Well, look, first of all, I've been talking about that issue for years, and that's another issue where the Democrats have just copied our talking points in one form or another. Again, we want American homes to go to American citizens, and whether we're talking about an illegal alien or a massive foreign conglomerate, I don't want either one of those groups to own American homes. I want the American people to own American homes. But what I find so preposterous about Kamala Harris's proposals here is, and most of them I think are totally crazy, and some of them she's copied from us, and the ones she's copied from us, obviously I think are a good idea. I can't help but wonder, why aren't you doing it right now? Who is the majority leader of the United States Senate? A Democrat. Who is the president and vice president of the United States? Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. If Kamala Harris really believes that these policies are going to make American citizens more prosperous, she is welcome to try them right now. What I can't get over is a person who runs on promising to do something. She's got a job right now. She ought to do it. And if her ideas are so good, they would help the American citizens now. And it's telling that instead of actually implementing these policies, she just talks about them, because that's what people in Washington do. Career bureaucrats and career politicians who talk about doing things. Donald Trump actually got stuff done in 4 years, and that's why we got to put. Let's do one more question, and then I want to leave y'all with a final thought about voter turnout.
On behalf of KPBM Television, thank you so much for this question. As we know, alcoholism and/or addiction does not discriminate based on race, education, socioeconomic status, gender, or anything else. And Clark County has seen an increase in fentanyl fatalities, 97% increase in the last couple of years. What do we do?
Very good question, ma'am. And look, it is a big issue, not just in Clark County, not just in Nevada, but all over the United States of America. And the first and most important thing that we've got to do is close down the border and stop this poison from coming into our country in the first place. And I speak about this issue with a lot of personal experience because, my mom, for so much of my childhood, struggled with addiction in some form or another. It's why my grandmother raised me. Well, I'm standing here, by the grace of God. My mom has been clean and sober for almost 10 years. And that is an amazing grace and an amazing thing. But I can't help but wonder, because I've certainly sat by Mom's bedside after a bad overdose, wondering whether she would wake up and pray to God that she did. And I can't help but wonder if the poison that Kamala Harris has led into this country today was in the country 15 years ago, would my mom still be here? And would she have gotten the incredible opportunity to be a great grandmother to our three kids? I think the answer is no. And it's one of the reasons why we've got to stop this poison from coming into our country is to everybody out there. There is hope on the other side of addiction, but only if you get a second chance, and fentanyl is taking second chances away from our citizens. Think about this, 100,000 people dying of overdoses. Most of those overdose deaths every single year are caused by fentanyl. Can you imagine if a foreign country invaded the United States of America and was killing 100,000? If a foreign country invaded the United States of America and was killing 100,000, with the Mexican drug cartels that are killing our people by the thousands. But man, to your point, obviously the immigration part, I think is the biggest part of it, because that's where so much the fentanyl comes in. We've also got to help people get into recovery. It's an important thing too. And I think pretty much everybody who's ever known someone with addiction will tell you, they get back on the horse and sometimes they fall off, and sometimes they get off, and sometimes they get back on for 10 years. Sometimes they get back on the horse for a month. We have got to give people the opportunity to keep on trying to get better, because I really believe, as a person who's made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I think most of us have, I'm just a dream for people who did everything right all the time. The American dream is a dream of fighting and trying again and again and again. So let's fight for second chances for our people. And one of the ways you got to do, I'm a person of faith. I imagine a lot of you are people of faith, whether Christian, Jew, or Muslim. We love you. But if you're not a person of faith, you're welcome in this comments. But you've got a lot of folks on the ground, especially people of faith, who would love detox to help people who are dealing with drug addiction. Or you have church groups that would love to set up small addiction counseling and recovery centers. Right now, the federal government makes it way too hard for people of faith communities to get involved in helping their neighbors. Donald Trump and I want to be friends and allies of anybody that's trying to make their community better, because I love that about this country. But Kamala Harris has this attitude that, and you're trying to do charitable work. Well, don't even come knocking, because you're in a place of America, whether you're Christian, Jew, non-believer. If you're trying to help your neighbors, you've got a place in Donald Trump's Republican Party, and we hope that we can earn your support. On that note, look, my friends, I think we're going to win. I think we're going to win Nevada. I think we're going to win the whole country. I'm feeling good about it. Only if y'all get out there and vote, okay? And not you, but your friends and your family. So I'm going to make 3 requests of you, okay? Look, this is for President Donald Trump and hopefully, future Vice President me. It matters. Look, if we win Nevada, but I think we're dealing with Senator Sam Brown instead of Senator Jackie Rosen. That's a big thing. That's got a pretty nice ring to it, right? One thing I don't like about Sam, though, I don't want anybody in Washington. I'm 6'2". I don't want anybody talking to me. But look, Sam he's a one. If you if we don't take this seat this time with that candidate, you guys may have a different 20 years, right? So here's what I want to ask you for. Okay, number one, there's a website. I want you to go to it. Write it down if you have to, but I'm going to repeat it. Swamp the Vote USA. SwampTheVoteUSA.com. Because as President Trump says, we have got the vote. I don't want to just win. I want to win by such a big margin that we're going to bed early. We're going to bed early on Tuesday night, and we know that we've won. We know that we've done what we need to do. Okay, so your registration. You can check how to get involved in some of our voter turnout efforts. You can know where your polling location is. SwampTheVoteUSA.com. I want you to use whatever method of communication, whether it's social media, now call. I want you to commit to talking about what you saw here today, and most importantly, why you are voting for Donald Trump, for Kamala Harris. Because we're never going to have Kamala Harris or her allies in the corporate media telling the truth, but we can tell the truth to one another, and that power is how we're going to win the 2024 election. Again, not just for President Trump, but for folks like Sam Brown. So talk to people, get out there and talk to people about. Now here's the third thing that I want you to do. I want you to get out there, and I want you to vote 10 times. The legal way. Okay? Here's how you vote 10 times the legal way. You take yourself to the polls and you make sure not to go along with you. That is the legal way to vote 10 times. Now, and look, I say this as somebody who strongly prefers election day over election season, but as President Trump says, it is what it is. We are now in a world where early voting, election day voting, these are all the methods that we have to vote. And if Kamala is using everything, and we're only using one of those methods of voting, then we're gonna get killed. So we gotta get out there, however you can, in mail, early in person, going on election day, whatever makes the most sense to you. Get out there and let's try to bank as many votes by election day as possible. I was talking to your great GOP chairman, and we were talking about how usually Republicans go into election day down thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of ballots. We have of going into election day with Republicans up by thousands of ballots, what we can, and get people out there to vote. You don't have to love everything about our election system. I don't, but we've got to be by the rules that have been given to us. And if we do that, my friends, we're going to win. Take your friends and family out there to vote. Remember, the country is depending on you to give the United States the leadership it deserves. We've got 13 days. Thank you all for having me. It's good to see you about it.
Why don't we liberate these United States? We're the ones who need it first. Let the rest of the world help us forge rebuild America first. There's things to be done. Let's rebuild America first.
Hold up, Dominique West. We finna get Slim Shady. Oh, that's Louisiana so well. We can get this bastard. This Slim?
Yeah, it was,
This young T nigga, you ain't Slim from past your money, is you? Cause I'm here to get Is you Slim Shady or you Slim, you know, with the bag, nigga? Which one you is? Cause I know you in New Orleans or Baton Rouge. Listen here, Dust Mike. This young T Tip, they done gave me your number up here on TikTok. You've been playing with my niece, dog. And I don't like that, bro. I don't like it, dog. Cause my niece gave me your number. He hung up on me, y'all. He hung up. Oh, that nigga had some mouth. I'm gonna call Buddy back. I don't like him. Oh, I'm gonna call him back. His mouth sweet. I'm finna get this nigga.